I mean, I guess the starting point is that the Egyptian economy during the revolution has gone through difficulties, financial difficulties, because there are imbalances in the budget deficit and in the balance of payment. There is an economic difficulty because economic growth is low and unemployment is up. And over and above, they still need, Egypt needs to develop its social agenda. It needs to deal with issues of equality, inequality. These problems were there, they became more difficult during the transition, and now the new government with the Muslim Brotherhood has to deal with it. I think they have good intentions. I think they have a broad strategy, but I think the strategy is yet to be translated into concrete policies that will really make a difference on the ground. So far, most of what we see is fundamentally trying to attract more capital from outside to deal with the imbalances. The visits by President Morsi to China, to Brussels, to several other, Saudi Arabia, the Gulf. I mean, these are intended to generate some resources to help the economy get out of the difficulty. But the real test is going to be in terms of domestic policies and what they would need to do, with or without the IMF, to really get the economy going, get the economy activated, get the economy growing and creating jobs for the young people who are unemployed right now, and fixing the long-term problems of education and health services and the like. So the agenda is yet to be drafted in full. I think people were too busy right now with the first 100 days of President Morsi in power, and I think that these 100 days are over. Now it's really time to focus on the things that will make a difference in the long run. What will get the Egyptian economy going is what the Egyptians will actually do for Egypt to begin with. Now, outsiders, the EU or the US or China or anybody else, can provide helping hands, but they do not solve the local problems to begin with. Now, the experience of the EU versus not just Egypt, but the southern Mediterranean countries, all of them, has shifted over time, as we know. It has shifted from the Barcelona process to the association agreement to the neighborhood policy. Have these programs been sufficiently effective? Well, my answer is to some degree yes, but mostly no. And I think this is the time after the Arab Spring that the EU needs to rethink their strategy in dealing with the spring countries and non-spring countries for that matter before they get into their spring. Exactly what formula? Well, that needs to be discussed and need to be thought through. Clearly, the EU is not going to go for the process of accession, but short of that, what can the EU do? I believe at a minimum there is a case to be made for what I would call deep integration, deep free trade agreements, if you like. What the EU has had with some of the countries in the south, Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, Jordan, is what I would call a shallow association agreement. It deals with issues on the borders, but not behind the borders. It doesn't deal with issues of investment, it doesn't deal with issues of labor mobility, it doesn't deal with issues of domestic policies, trade facilitation. So there is a lot more that can be done short of just giving a handout. I think handout is not sustainable. It might happen one time, but it's not your way of maintaining a solid relationship in the South. Money without any change in policies and rules is a money that will come in, get spent, create debt if it's not a grant, and would leave the country where it was before. Similarly, rules without any leverage doesn't give the EU a lot of leverage to deal with the region. So what I think is needed is a combination of both, and it doesn't have to be in the form of giving money necessarily on the part of the EU. Market access is an important dimension. Discussing issues of temporary labor migration at a time when Europe is having a shortage and the South has a lot of people who are unemployed may actually be a mutually beneficial exchange, where it's good for Europe, it's good for the region. So one has to be creative and think about it in ways that go beyond either rules or money. It's neither. It needs to be both, and one has to be creative about dealing with it.